Could Obama use a natural disaster to claim a third term as president? Recently, there has been a lot of talk about an imminent disaster that could happen. 2 months ago, it was Yellowstone. And just after that, everybody was worried about Mount St. Helens. And then the big news was the epic hurricane season that we would see this summer. And now, all the attention is focused on the Cascadia subduction zone and the threat of a 9.0 earthquake.
Today in New Orleans, they got a lot tougher on the holdouts.
Police department, anyone home?
Not only the flooded areas, but New Orleans' driest and wealthiest neighborhoods, too.
Police department!
The police and National Guard going street by street, house to house.
We need to make sure, too, that whenever we knock on doors, people refuse to leave. We need to make note, call it in.
Amount of rain as a couple of systems are merging over the region. We've got a front that's stalled out that is going to help focus some rain anyway. And then in addition to that, we've got a lot of moisture flowing northward out of the Gulf of Mexico in association with that rainmaker in the deep south. Those two are going to combine their forces and lead to several inches of rain, at least across this region. We have 5 to 8 there.
Obama and FEMA officials have spoken out now on several occasions. People need to be ready for a cataclysm, that they should have stored food, water, and other supplies and have an escape route. Obama isn't the only leader talking about an imminent event.
There's no geoengineering. They can't create the weather. Where the hell do you get that from? Let's go and check out patents. These are all patents that the U.S. government or someone connected to the government owns. Let's see. August 6th, 1913. Rainmaker.
Rainmaker in the deep south.
Gee, I wonder why they have that. They can't do something like make the rain.
Rainmaker in the deep south.
They can't make it rain. Look, 1891. Method of producing rainfall. You schmucks. Tell me again they can't control the weather. These are all patents owned by the United States government and trademark office. 1891.
They say there are no orders to use force, just strong persuasion, sometimes entering open houses with guns drawn, and instructions to disarm anyone inside.
You say guns will be taken? No one will be able to be armed. We will take all weapons.
That happened today in this wealthy neighborhood where homeowners had armed themselves to protect their mansion.
They were a little bit threatened because our weapons were bigger than their weapons.
This guard unit occupied a church, using it as a base camp. They had to leave a note because they could not get hold of the pastor to get permission.
It is surreal. Yeah, you never expect to do this in your own country.
Streets, you don't want to think about the stuff that you're gonna have to do if somebody pops around the corner.
I mean, shoot in America.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want you in here. I don't want you in here, period. I know all about it.
Well, Patricia Coney's protests were to no avail. They moved her out of there, and she is now out of the city.
I'm saying, look at all my food. I got plenty of food. They kept pushing me back, and ended up like this.
Then, Patty showed them a small revolver she was carefully holding in the palm of her hand. A camera crew was there to capture what unfolded next.
I said, it's not even loaded. And I dropped it on the floor.
You got a gun, relax.
Well, they punched me in the face. Relax now. Look at my black and blue marks. Look at what they did to me. They dragged me out of here. I really thought they were gonna kill me. I really did.
We felt like criminals at the time when they come up to us with M16s or AR-15s, whatever it was, but there was 4 of them with rifles and holding on us with our hands in the air until they got in our boat.
So they got on the boat and they asked us, do you have any loaded weapons? Yes, we do. They're in the 2 back compartments. Wayne went to show him where the gun was, and he screams, don't touch it, don't even move, I'll get it.
I felt like it was un-American and then we had been violated when they took. Like I say, we were shell-shocked. We were just sitting around looking at each other and said, we just got our guns taken away from them.
They took them. And they didn't have a right to take them. They didn't have a reason to take them. That was the thing. We did nothing wrong. But they took them anyway. He said, be thankful we're taking your guns here. Why should I be thankful? Well, if they catch you with them on land, they're going to take you straight to jail.
We live in proof that all they have to do is say, look, this is the law.
You had that feeling that you were violated. They took something from you. They stole something from you. That's the only way to put it. They took something that they didn't have a right to take.
Looking at the U.S.'s West Coast, Washington State Governor Jay Inslee has recently started preparing emergency services in his state. He cites that it's not a matter of if, but when, for the Cascadian earthquake to happen. California has already made preparations in April and May and is participating in a major drill taking place from June 7th through the 10th called Cascadia Rising. This involves the states of Washington, Oregon, and California and is backed by FEMA. It simulates a 9.0 earthquake and the potential for a tsunami. Oregon Governor Kate Brown and California Governor Jerry Brown have both invested heavily in earthquake disaster response and preparation. They've been vocal about the need to prepare for a huge coming earthquake and how one can stay safe during such an event. Additionally, several mainstream media publications have pushed people in the US and Canada to prepare now for a climate devastation.
It's not a matter of if, but when for us. And today, thousands of first responders held a massive drill to make sure that they know what to do when that big one strikes.
9.0 magnitude earthquake and tsunami hits. In fact, the Oregon Office of Emergency Management says it'll affect more than 15 million people in our area. 5,000 of them will die, and more than 1 million of them will be in need of food, an issue Governor Kate Brown addressed this morning.
And their homes should be stocked with food, water, and critical items to help them sustain extended periods of time without electricity or plumbing.
Total chaos that can happen at any moment. A
2.2 magnitude artificial earthquake shook up the North Korean capital of Pyongyang at around 12:30 p.m. today local time. Seoul's meteorological agency says it picked up the tremors in an area roughly 34 kilometers southeast of the capital. Officials add it's unlikely to have resulted from a nuclear test, judging by the location and magnitude of the seismic event. According to the weather agency, the depth of the seismic center was just 1 kilometer below ground.
Visible in today's news cycle as a long-standing demonization of white law enforcement officials can be seen after a shooting in which an officer fired on and killed a man that refused to lower his own firearm in a gang-riddled neighborhood that saw a double homicide just days before created violence. Reports from those within the area show that widespread protests and increasingly violent riots continued deep into the night following the event as a mob-like mentality took over what began as a protest against the shooting and ended with multiple buildings burned, some of them with innocent civilians still inside, officers chased into their vehicles and surrounded by rioters kicking and throwing bricks into their vehicles, and reports of violence within the rioters themselves in a visible display of how the mob mentality works.
And it says National Guard drills for major disease outbreak, and mind you, this was just reported yesterday, and they just so happen to be drilling for this around the same time that we see what just happened with the civil unrest in Milwaukee too. And by the way, your government and your military have been preparing for civil unrest in America for so many years now.
Why are they doing this? Why do they keep issuing these warnings about imminent climate threats? We've also seen companies in Canada and the US who are now pouring millions of dollars into disaster response including AT&T, who will invest $600 million so that customers can maintain communication during a disaster. Additionally, there are several other states located in the center of the U.S. that will carry out major disaster response exercises, including Tennessee. According to the article you see on the screen, Tennessee will carry out one of the largest exercises in the history of the state. Is it just me, or does it seem like there's a lot of preparation for a climate cataclysm that is coming, whatever it might be, whether it's Cascadia or a hurricane or something else? Is something going to come before the election? And if so, could this result in a cancellation by Barack Obama? The answer is yes. In fact, Obama can do it easily with the declaration of martial law. Constitutional rights in America will be suspended in such an instance. It is hard for people in the U.S. to envision what their nation would look like under martial law. Some say it can't be done, but I beg to differ.
National Guard that's been activated there, and if you don't think this is coming to a city and police state near you, it's time to think again. But I'm here at the USA Today, and it says Wisconsin governor activates National Guard after Milwaukee unrest. And what you're about to see is that it's not just in Milwaukee that the National Guard has been activated, it's in other places as well.
In this event, Obama could easily lay aside all amendments of the Constitution, including the 22nd, that forces term limits on the executive branch.
Colonel North, in your work at the NSC, were you not assigned at one time to work on plans for the continuity of government in the event of a major disaster? Mr. Chairman.
I believe that question touches upon a highly sensitive and classified area, so may I request that you not touch upon that, sir.
I was particularly concerned, Mr. Chairman, because I read in Miami papers and several others that there had been a plan developed by that same agency, a contingency plan in the event of emergency that would suspend the American Constitution. And I was deeply concerned about it and wondered if that was the area in which he had worked. I believe it was.
May I most respectfully request that that matter not be touched upon at this stage. If we wish to get into this, I'm certain arrangements can be made for an executive session.
And tragically, the only member who got close was Jack Brooks, and he was stopped by the chairman. But the truth of the matter is that, yes, you do have those standby provisions, and the plans are there, and the statutory emergency plans are there, whereby you could, in the name of stopping terrorism, apprehend, invoke the military, and arrest Americans and hold them in detention camps.
This clip clearly shows that a top-secret plan has been in place for some time that pertains to the suspension of the U.S. Constitution and the ushering in of a provisional government during a national crisis. That's correct. Never before in history has a president of the U.S. had such power over the military to declare martial law for any reason, at any point in time, anywhere in the world. Martial law changes everything, even constitutional rights. You no longer have them. They're gone, including the 22nd Amendment, which limits Obama to 2 terms. He no longer would be forced to leave office if martial law was declared. Several individuals have spoken out publicly about the potential for an Obama 3rd term with the eruption of a major calamity in the United States. Dr. Ben Carson warned that Obama could cancel the election under widespread anarchy, while former Congressman Allen West declared that Obama was taking several actions to ensure that he will have a 3rd term. Larry Nichols has spoken out about Obama's plot to keep power using a FEMA provisional government, and Democratic Senator Chris Murphy warned on the floor of the Senate back in January that Mitch McConnell's bill was handing martial authority to Barack Obama.
Is working.
Madam President, today I wanted to come down to the floor to speak very briefly about a resolution that the Majority Leader introduced, I believe, earlier today. This is an authorization for military force resolution that apparently purports to give the President legal authority to conduct military operations against ISIS. Before we break for the weekend, Madam President, I thought it was important to come to the floor to explain why, very briefly, to my colleagues, to explain what this resolution really is. This resolution is a total rewrite of the War Powers Clause of the United States Constitution. Let's be clear about that. It is essentially a declaration of international martial law, a sweeping transfer of military power to the President that will allow him or her to send U.S. troops almost anywhere in the world for almost any reason with absolutely no limitations.
Everything's been put in place. The stage has been set. All that's needed now is a widespread calamity or catastrophe, and then troops can be ushered in, and the Marshall Declaration can be made in the United States. An Obama third term scenario is really not hard to accomplish. If the Cascadia subduction zone were to blow, or any other type of natural disaster, such an event could easily cause enough chaos, looting, and rioting for Obama to declare the Marshall State. Once he does this, the 22nd Amendment goes up in smoke, and his third term is ushered in.